everybody. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Welcome to a very, very special webinar. I'm so excited to say that today is our 100th webinar. So thank you so much to all of you in our MMA Helps community. We're so lucky to have you, and thank you for being here. We are going to be learning about 5 ways to integrate phonological awareness into your classroom. It's a very exciting webinar. Couldn't have asked for a better webinar for our 100th episode. You will be hearing me say that a lot today because we are so excited about it. Thank you so much to all of you who have been here with us since the beginning, since we started our webinars. It is such an exciting milestone that we have hit 100 webinars. So thank you so much to everyone for being here with us today. As always, as you settle in, go ahead and write in the chat. Just let us know where you're joining from today. Let us know if this is your first webinar. Maybe it's your 100th webinar. Welcome everybody. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about 5 ways to integrate phonological awareness into your classroom. We are so excited for today's webinar. We have some fabulous guests for you. I'm so excited. We will get started in 2 minutes. I'm just going to give you some time to settle in, find a spot to close your door, grab a coffee, grab a tea, and we will get started. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Happy Thursday afternoon. My favorite afternoon of the week. I'm so happy to be here with you all, celebrating our 100th webinar. So exciting. Welcome everybody. Happy Thursday. We're going to take a couple minutes just to let everybody settle in and join us today. We have a very exciting webinar lined up for you. We're going to be talking about 5 ways to integrate phonological awareness into your classroom for our 100th webinar. Super exciting. And for all of you here with us today, you will all be receiving a certificate of participation for being here in our live webinar today. Just know we will send out those certificates by early next week. So as always, don't worry if you don't get it today, you don't get it tomorrow. We will absolutely get that to you by early next week. Welcome everybody. Happy Thursday. So excited to be here with you all for our 100th webinar. I cannot wait to get started. Take 1 more minute to settle in, grab a tea, grab a coffee. Okay. Welcome everybody. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for being here on this Thursday afternoon to talk about 5 ways to integrate phonological awareness into your classroom. Super, super exciting webinar. It is 2 o'clock Eastern time. We are going to get started right on the dot because we have some exciting announcements that I can't wait to go through with you today. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so first things first, if you are not connected with us on any of our social platforms, I highly recommend you do. We have an Instagram account. We have a Facebook page that is a Circle Time group for early childhood educators. It's such a fabulous community. Kaya is in there talking with tons of educators, sharing lots of fabulous ideas that you can bring into your centers, into your classrooms, and into your homes. So I highly recommend checking out those platforms as well. And before we get started, as always, we do have a quick disclaimer that the content we are sharing with you today is not personalized legal or financial advice for your center. Okay, so the goal today is for you to gain some really great tips and tricks for your centers, for your classrooms, for your homes, but it is not legal or personal financial advice. We just want to make sure that we are clear on that so that you do consult the right people should you go about making any big changes at your center. Now we are going to give a quick listen to our land acknowledgement.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word Takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate.
Okay, and we're now going to give a listen to our diversity and inclusion statement as well.
Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
Okay, and a couple housekeeping pieces as well. As always, we are recording this session, so if anything does come up and you do have to pop off early, do not worry, the session is being recorded, and we will send out the recording with the slides and the certificate by early next week. As well, we are recording with the closed caption turned on, so that will be available for you. If you do need to enable that on your end as well, please do make sure you go ahead and hit that CC tab as well. And again, in terms of the certificate, so as always, for everyone who has taken the time to join us live here today, you will absolutely receive a certificate of participation. And again, that will be sent to you by early next week. And lastly, if you are having any issues at all with your Zoom account, we do want to make sure you're consulting the right people. So please do be sure to consult support.zoom.us should you have any issues at all. Okay, and a little bit about Hi Mama. If you have not heard of us before, welcome. I am so glad that you found your way to us, especially on a very exciting webinar, our 100th webinar today. Go ahead and write in the chat, let us know, is this your first webinar? Are you joining us on our 100th webinar today? Or maybe you've been here for all 100 of them. We love to see all of our Hi Mama Helps community in the chat. But if you didn't know much about Hi Mama, on top of our amazing professional development community with our webinars and our podcasts, we are a childcare management app. In Hi Mama, you can do all of your parent communication, your photo and video sharing, billing, track children's portfolios. It's all available in Hi Mama to make your life as an educator, a parent, a director, or an owner as easy as possible. If you would like to learn any more about Hi Mama, my colleague Morgan will post a link in the chat and we'd be super happy to show you around. As well, if you do join the Hi Mama family, or maybe you already are part of the Hi Mama family, I can promise you, you will receive world-class support. I used to be on our support team as well, and I promise you, it is a fabulous group of humans on the other side of the phone waiting to help you out and make sure you have a successful transition to Hi Mama at your center. Again, we also have tons of podcasts. If you didn't know we had podcasts available, I definitely recommend giving those a listen. We have hundreds of free activities available, articles that get put out. If you didn't know, we are also a B certified company, which means that on top of working with our fabulous community of educators, we are actively contributing to making a positive impact in the early childhood education space. And finally, your host. If you've never met me before, my name is Maddie. I am your host of today's webinar. I'm also one of the early childhood educators here on our Hi Mama team, and I am also our customer advocacy specialist. And I have my lovely co-host Morgan here with me today. Morgan, what's going on your side today? Any fun facts?
I don't really have anything super fun, but I am in the process of making some bread today. So that's kind of, yeah, since I started it this morning, so it should be ready to go in the oven by tonight. So I'm really looking forward to having some fresh bread to go with my dinner tonight. But I'm so excited to be here today and I cannot wait for this webinar. I've been looking forward to this one, so I think it's going to be great.
That's amazing, Morgan. I have bread rising right beside me as well, so I guess that's just a fun hobby for Hi Mama. Okay, thank you so much, Morgan. Okay, and before we dive in and bring our special guests on, I'm so excited to announce, if you haven't heard me say it 15 times already, today is our 100th episode. And to thank our fabulous community who joins us on our webinars every week, we are giving away some prizes. We have a $100 gift card for a library refresh in your classroom that we will be giving away. As well, our fabulous guests from Learning Without Tears have given us an individual reader set and a registration to their Building Early Literacy Skills workshop that we will be giving out as well. So exciting. For these prizes and giveaways, we will be announcing it in the show notes email that you get. You will get that by early next week at the latest. So keep an eye out in those emails. We will be announcing the winners. And if you are the winner, we will also contact you directly. So don't worry if you do miss it. And before we dive in, we have created a very exciting webinar wall of fame. If you didn't know, again, today is our 100th webinar, and we've actually gone back and retracked from January 2021 to today. We have had 62 webinars. Within those 62 webinars, we found the top attendees who have attended. On the top of the list here, you can see Mona has attended 61 of those 62 webinars. Mona, if you are on here today, please write in the chat. Thank you so much for being with us for all of our webinars. We are so lucky to have such a fabulous community. And everybody else on this list too, thank you so much for attending our webinars and being here with us. And to everybody who attends our webinars as well, thank you so much. We wouldn't be able to continue these without all of your support and joining us every single week. So thank you so much. And finally, our special guest today, we have Cheryl Lundy-Swift, Professional Learning Director at Learning Without Tears, and Tracy Sloper from Learning Without Tears as well. Cheryl and Tracy, please join us today. Thank you so much for being here with us. Hello, thank you for joining us.
Hi there, thanks so much for having us. We are just incredibly honored to just be a part of your 100th webinar today. So excited to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Oh, we're so lucky to have you. To make sure we can maximize our full time, I know you have a fabulous presentation lined up for all of us today. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. The stage is all yours. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. So let's get started. All right, before we begin, I want to make sure that everyone can see our screen. Awesome. Very good. So again, we'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, 5 ways to integrate phonological awareness into your classroom. Now, as you may know, children come into our classrooms with varying experiences and knowledge of letters. Now, some pre-K and kindergarten children enter our classrooms singing some or all of the ABC song, right? Others are able to identify some letters in their name, and there are even some pre-K and even kindergarten children who know some letters. Regardless of their varied experience with letters, it is critically important that children learn each letter name for capital letters as well as lowercase letters. Now, they must also know the form or shape of the letter as well as the sound the letter represents. We call this alphabet knowledge, and research tells us that alphabet knowledge is an early literacy skill that emerging readers need to become successful readers. Now, in fact, alphabet knowledge is a predictor of early reading success. Today, we're going to share some really fun strategies to help make letter learning stick. Now, during our time together, you will learn practical strategies that you can implement right away to support your emerging readers in building their alphabet knowledge. Now, at the end of this workshop, you will be able to, 1, integrate letter learning and letter sounds in authentic ways throughout the day. 2, you'll be able to support emerging readers by applying the alphabetic principle and concepts of print. 3, you'll be able to leverage shared reading and other learning opportunities to reinforce letter sound relationships. And finally, you'll be able to differentiate letter and letter sound instruction in activities to meet the needs of diverse learners. Now, okay, everybody, put your seatbelt on. Let's start by ensuring that we have a common understanding of what we even mean when we say alphabet knowledge. Let's see what it looks like in action. Now, alphabet knowledge, also referred to as letter knowledge, is an important early literacy skill. Now, essentially, we want children to be able to visually discriminate letters. For example, they should know that a capital E has 3 little lines and a capital F has only 2. They should also be able to recognize and name both capital and lowercase letters. In addition, we want children to be able to say the sounds that letters represent and know how to build or write letters. Now, even if children are not ready to write their letters, it's important for them to learn the proper sequence to build a letter with either wood pieces or dough. Building letters first will lead to greater success in knowing how to form or write those letters later. Now, when it comes to alphabet knowledge, we want children to see a letter and be able to quickly identify that letter, the letter sound, and know how to form it. Now that we have a common understanding of what alphabet knowledge is, it's important to understand that introducing children to letters can really be a paradigm shift for them. Let me explain to you what I mean. Now, before a child is introduced to letters, they do not realize that there are symbols that represent our spoken words. And they certainly do not know that those symbols must look a certain way or be oriented in a specific way. Now, the dog you see here in this image is a dog, regardless if it's standing up, if it's sitting down, or even if it's on its back. The dog keeps its identity regardless of its orientation. But when we introduce letters, that thinking must change. So a lowercase b, for example, facing in the opposite direction is in fact an entirely different letter. If you face it in the opposite direction, it changes its identity and it becomes, you guessed it, a lowercase d. And if you flip the lowercase d upside down, it changes its identity to a lowercase p. And if you flip it yet again, yep, you're right, it's no longer a lowercase p, it is now a lowercase q. Now, as you can see, a child's world with symbols can be really confusing. And not only do we blow their minds that direction and position matter, but we also let them know that the ABCs they've been singing all about have two different symbols. We introduce children to both capital letters and lowercase letters and let them know that they have the same exact name. Now, notice here on the slide, we see a capital A that looks very different from the lowercase a. Now, oh wait, did we mention that these letters also represent sounds? And some of them even represent more than one sound, like the letter C that has a hard sound, k, like in the word cat, or a soft sound, s, like in cider. Just knowing that children have a lot to learn about letters is a great start. But how do we teach letters so that children are able to name them, say their sounds, and build or write them without thoroughly confusing them? Well, to support all children in learning alphabet knowledge, we suggest that you focus on 5 areas: letters and sounds, phonological awareness, concepts about print, shared reading, and shared writing. Now, as we share a little bit about each area, we will provide strategies to support English language learners as well as students with learning differences. Let's start with teaching letters and sounds. Now, in order to teach letters and sounds, you must make it engaging and multimodal. In fact, there are 5 factors to consider when teaching letters and sounds. First and foremost, it's really important that you have a system or a scope and sequence to teach letters. A lot of parents and a lot of teachers ask us, what is the correct teaching order? And I've got to tell you, there is no one correct way. The key is that you have a well thought out sequence or order and that you stick to that order. Secondly, it's important that you explicitly teach children the names of letters, the sounds they represent, and again, how they're formed. We cannot assume that children are going to naturally pick that up. Let's also show children how the system works. We need to help them understand that our spoken language can be transferred to written form and that letters, well, they make words, and words, they make sentences. If we really want to help children with learning letters, research tells us that a strong school-to-home partnership is also key. Lastly, we believe at Learning Without Tears that teaching anything, but especially letters and sounds, should be multimodal, playful, and joyful. So when you think about teaching order, I would advise you to think about what letters may be easiest or hardest to recognize. Now, we recommend that you teach capital letters first because they're the easiest to recognize and to write. They're easy to recognize and write because they all have the same size and they all start at the top. We have a really famous song. Some of you may know it. Where do you start your letters? At the top. Now, you also want to think about the signs in your community, like the stop sign. The word stop is in all capital letters, whether you realize it or not. You can also tie in a student's initial or their first or last name to teach letters, right? So again, children want to recognize those letters in their names. Now, after teaching capitals, we recommend that you teach lowercase letters. Now, be sure to start with the lowercase letters like C, O, S, V, and W. Why? Well, it's because they look exactly like their capital partners, only smaller. Starting with familiar and lowercase letters will allow you to quickly move on to teaching lowercase letters that are different from their capital partners. Now, in terms of letter sounds, children will find it easier to identify the target sound at the beginning of words before they can recognize the target sound at the end of words. Now, when it comes to letter recognition, we divide and conquer. Let me show you our teaching order at Learning Without Tears. Now, as you can see, when we teach letters, we group them together into smaller, similar strokes and starting places. Now, we start with developmentally appropriate strokes like vertical and horizontal lines because they are the easiest. Now, for lowercase letters, as I mentioned, we start with C, O, S, V, and W. And then we move on to some of my favorite letters, the magic C letters, because they all start with a C stroke. So again, the A, we need a C first in order to make that A. By teaching capital and lowercase letters in this systematic order, we are reinforcing and building on skills that children already have. We provided a link in the attendance chat for you to access our capital and lowercase teaching order charts. Now, regardless of what teaching order you choose, the key is that you must teach letters and sounds explicitly. We cannot make any assumptions. We must directly teach letters by modeling. We recommend a routine when introducing a letter. So to introduce letters, we recommend that the teacher or family member name and say the sound and use a picture mnemonic to help anchor the letter name and sound. For example, a common mnemonic for A is apple, right? You would see the symbol in almost every pre-K classroom. We also recommend that you use strategic letter formation to help children learn how to form the letter. We build letters before we write letters. Tracy is going to tell you more about that later. Now, lastly, children must be able to apply their letter knowledge. Now, as you read, have children point to the letter that you're working on, that target letter within a particular book. Now, let's look at this one-on-one lesson of the letter C. Now, in the video, you will see me working with one of my favorite people on the planet. He's my little nephew, Tatum. And Tatum was 3 when we filmed this, this little recording, but he's now a big boy. He's 4 years old now. So feel free to chat about the routines that you notice in the video. Enjoy.
Tatum, this is the letter C. It is the letter C. Do you know what sound the C makes? The sound is k. Yes, can you say k, k, right? As in, oh wait, look what I have. As in coconut.
Coconut.
Oh, have you ever seen a coconut?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to touch it? Yeah, is it heavy? So what letter does coconut start with? C. And what sound does coconut begin with?
K.
Very good. K. Tatum, I'm going to read a story about Cora and the coconut. What do you think the story is going to be about?
Dropping some coconut.
It'll probably be about some coconuts, right? Well, let's find out, okay? Ooh, look. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Are you set?
Yeah.
It's time for the alphabet. Madman has a letter for you to know better. What is that, Tatum?
C.
It's a C. It's a capital C and a lowercase c.
C.
Very good. Now let's read the story about Cora and the coconut. Look, a coconut. Will it come down?
Did you see that?
What did you see? You want me to go back? What did you see? Where's the coconut? Yeah, I see. Some coconuts are green and some are brown, right? Mm-hmm. This one is green and brown. It's turning brown. It means it's going to be ripe to eat.
He melts my heart. I just want you to know he has me wrapped around his little finger. So what I want to do is I want to look at some of the tools that we used here with Tatum. Now, as you might have noticed, I model saying the name of the letter C as well as its sound. I also had an actual coconut as a mnemonic device. Although you didn't see me do this with Tatum, Tatum also traced the letter C. He built the letter C on the blue mat and found the letter C in the story, Cord and the Coconut. Now, to help reinforce the naming and forming of the letter C, I used a laminated card, a blue mat, and wood pieces. Now, if you do not have these items, okay, because Tracy's going to share later how you can make your own. I also read a story with the target letter C and the letter sound K. As children learn letter names and sounds, it is important for them to understand the system, which we call the alphabetic principle. Now, the alphabetic principle is a system of symbols that connects speech to print. It is this system or code that helps children understand how to apply symbols and sounds in order to read and write. Now, we must help children understand the big picture of how the system of reading and writing actually work. With young children, we develop the alphabetic principle by modeling the writing of words, by playing with language, by reading big books and pointing to words, and by even using letter sound correspondence to figure out words. Now, reinforcing this skill at school and at home can help children understand how symbols represent speech sounds. In fact, research consistently shows that a strong school-to-home connection helps build self-esteem. It helps build curiosity and motivation to learn new things. Now, home and school are the two most important places for young children. A successful school-to-home partnership assures children that there are people who care about them and provides a unique perspective about the child. When teachers and families work together, who wins? Everybody. Now, in the attendee chat, we provided a link to a blog with lots of activities to do at home or at school to help children with alphabet knowledge. Now, we encourage schools and families to share music, books, and games to help make letter learning fun at school and at home. Research tells us that we should make letter learning joyful and multimodal because it helps to make those concepts stick. Now, Tracy, I know that you have lots and lots of engaging letter learning activities that you like to do with pre-K children, even your own granddaughter, and you like to share them with families too. Can you share some with us?
Of course, Cheryl. One of the things that most people think about when it comes to the alphabet is, of course, the ABC song, right? My granddaughter's been singing the ABC song since she was 18 months old. But does that mean that she knows her alphabet? While she is very smart, she, of course, does not know her alphabet at 18 months old. And oftentimes with the regular ABC song, children have trouble with LMNOP, right? They sing it as if it's all one letter. So we recommend that you sing the ABC song using other tunes. We actually have a song called Inside Outside that totally solves what I call the LMNOP problem. Children would use their inside voices to sing certain parts of the song, and then their outside voices to sing LMNOP. Try songs that have children sing the letter and the sounds that the letters make, like who let the bee out? B, b, b. I would love for you to share with us via the attendee chat some of the fun songs or fun tunes that you use to teach the alphabet. And while you're doing that, we're going to go ahead and share a link with you now via the attendee chat to some of our music samples so you can check them out as well. We want to make sure that children can start associating the letter names with the ABC song. So when you're actually singing that song, make sure that you're pointing to the letters while you're singing the song with them. And be sure to send home the lyrics to any of the songs that you choose for families so that they can sing them at home as well. Another engaging way to make learning letters stick is to have students use their bodies to form letters. Let's take a look at this video of some students making a diver letter, the lowercase letter N, with their bodies and using gross motor movements.
What do we need before we can go diving? We need our swimsuits. I have them right here. Ready? Here we go. Catch your swimsuits. Catch your swimsuits. Everybody, get your, now stand, everybody stand up that you have your swimsuits. And let's put our swimsuits on. Whoop, whoop. Oh, make sure they're all on. All right. And you know what letter we're going to do today? N. We are going to do the letter N. That's right. All right, everybody up. Ready to dive? Dive down. swim up and over, down. We're going to do something that's called air writing. Let's make a lowercase n. Dive down, swim up and over, down. Get your pointer finger ready of your writing hand. And we're going to start up. You ready to follow along? Listen. Dive down, swim up and over, down. Very nice, very nice. I'm going to clear that, and I would like Bella to come up here and help me, please. I'm going to push draw, and then this gives you a pencil. Can you reach this right up here? And I want you to dive down, swim up and over and down. You did it. All right. Good job.
I absolutely love this video. It is such a perfect example of how many times those students got to use their bodies to understand the proper formation of the lowercase letter n. And it allows them to not only see the letter as you saw up on her screen, but they got to feel it with their bodies as well. So it's so fun and so engaging. And remember, if children are having difficulty, you don't have to do all of the letters at once. You can do some letters of the alphabet for children, or maybe even just letters that they recognize from their name. And then you can, or for some students, if they're not even ready for that, just let them dance and sing to your song. Music and movement engages the brain and helps us remember things. This is especially effective for students that have learning differences because you're involving their bodies and their senses and taking into account their different learning styles. Don't forget, be sure to include video or directions for the movements and share them with families so that they can practice them at home. We have lots of free resources on our website, and we've shared, we're going to share a helpful link with you in the attendee chat to our website. Letter learning sounds can also be fun too. So let's watch this video of students learning the sounds for T using pictures and magnets.
Will you put this magnet on a picture that starts with t, t? Now watch Charlie.
And I will do it.
I'm going to ask Reese to put this one up. All right, ready? Find one that sounds with a t, t, t. What picture is this? Igloo. It, two. Very good. Give me 5. All right. So on our picture card, we have 3 pictures that sound with t. Right, so
Two.
let's say them together.
Turtle.
Right. Turtle.
Two.
Table.
Of course, you can also use real objects like Cheryl did with her adorable nephew, Tatum. Using pictures and real objects is really a great way to give a child a mnemonic to help them remember the letter sound. I love to put objects in a box or a bag that begin with a particular target sound or a target letter and have children reach in to pull something out and then name it. And when they feel really successful with that and they've gotten the hang of that, I start adding other items in there that don't begin with that same target sound or that same letter and have them pull them out to see if they can discriminate the 2 different beginning sounds. Teaching children how to build or form the letter can be lots of fun too. We use a variety of manipulatives like the wood pieces that Cheryl mentioned, dough, and stamps to help capital letter formation stick. When children build and write letters, they're building their alphabet knowledge. But what are some of the most common problems you see when children are first beginning to write? Reversals, bottom-up writing, size relationships, right? Remember that Cheryl mentioned we recommend building letters first. Well, what you see here is that blue mat that she referred to. It's a blue mat and wood pieces to build capital letters. And these are designed to help reinforce good letter formation habits before we ever start writing. We call these wood pieces big lines, little lines, big curves and little curves. And we use this terminology while we're building our letters. Later, we use that same child-friendly language when we begin to write letters. Children should imitate you as you build the letters on the blue mat. The purpose of the mat is to define the space on which to build the capital letters, since all capital letters are the same size. By giving children a defined space, it promotes proper letter orientation and the sequence of the strokes. We've actually provided a pattern for these wood pieces in the attendee chat. You can cut them out of sandpaper, cardboard, laminated construction paper, really whatever you want. And if you don't have a blue mat, no big deal. Use a piece of construction paper. Just make sure that you put a smiley face in the top left-hand corner as a guide to help orient children to the top of the space. For a child that needing extra support, provide a model for them to build on top of by tracing the wood pieces to form a pattern. As the children become familiar and more comfortable, take the pattern away and just use the blue mat. Now let's explore another great way to build letters, which is with roll-a-dough. This is a great activity for all students, and especially for children who have weak fine motor skills. They will be learning how to build the letters in a proper sequence while they're working on their fine motor development as they roll out the big lines, the little lines, the big curves, and the little curves to make their letters. You can see here that the teacher is offering support to ensure that each piece of the letter is put in the proper sequence, reinforcing those good habits. Remember, when using dough or shaving cream or sand or rice or any of the other wonderful things that you use in the classroom, be sure to use some type of a tray to define the space to help control the size and the placement. I also recommend giving them a model to build on top of to use as a reference, like you see with the roll-a-dough letters that's shown on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Children need to learn to form lowercase letters correctly too. Tactile cards like these ABC Touch and Flip cards are great for matching the capital letters to the lowercase letters. And they have a sensory surface on them that allows a child to trace the letter with their finger and to feel the letters of the alphabet. There are so many fun and engaging ways to help make letters have meaning. And teaching letters doesn't need to be limited to your literacy block or to your blocks or centers or circle time. As you're walking around the community or around your school, see how many D's they can find. For a sensory experience, fill a Ziploc baggie with rice and add those little alphabet beads, you know, the kind that you make bracelets with, and have them squeeze the bag and look for the specific letters. This will also be building their fine motor skills at the same time as they're squeezing the rice in the bag. And for children that need a little bit more challenge, have them find all of the letters in their name or all the letters from a word on your word wall. For those who need a little more support, only add a few target letters to the bag or the sensory bottle. And what about adding old-fashioned wooden alphabet blocks to your block center? And of course, one of my favorite things to do is to use the playground time to reinforce alphabet knowledge. Try writing letters with chalk in different places on your playground, and then give the children either squirt bottles or paintbrushes and water. Have them find letters and make the letters disappear by either spraying them with the spray bottle or painting them over with the water. Now, I know we have some really creative teachers out there, so we would love for you to share in the attendee chat with us some of the activities that you do to help make letter learning fun. Cheryl, I'm going to let you, I can't see the chat box, so I'm going to let you shout out a couple to me if that's okay.
That's totally fine. I want you to know that this Hi Mama community is on fire. We have so many ideas. I love Javita's idea of going around the house and, like, for example, putting a D on door to reinforce that door starts with D, for example. But there are lots of really fun and cool ideas that we have here. Great job, guys.
Awesome. I learned something new every time in a chat box. I'm telling you, as many years I've been doing it, I learned something new every time. Fantastic. Now, Cheryl.
Stacey even mentioned pasta learning, which I think is interesting.
Oh, fun, fun. Yeah. Cheryl's going to share some ways with you now to help children learn letter sounds.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tracy. And thanks so much, community, for all those great ideas. So phonological awareness is this big umbrella term that refers to the ability to hear, as you can see this little boy doing here, and manipulate parts of spoken language. We're not asking children to associate letters with sounds. We just want them to hear sounds and manipulate sounds, right? So we're really using our eyes, our ears, and our mouth, not necessarily our eyes. Now, children are not born understanding sounds. Let me explain what I mean. Now, imagine a newborn baby in a crib. The dog comes into the nursery and barks. Does that baby know that it's a dog? No, they don't. But as the baby begins to hear more sounds, including the dog, it will start to make a connection. Now, what will that baby do in a couple of months when it hears the dog barking? The baby will turn to the direction of the dog barking. Now, can the baby say dog? No, they can't. But he is starting to understand where the sound is actually coming from. Now, as the baby becomes a toddler, he will start to hear and say words in his native language. Therefore, what this English-speaking toddler might say when the dog barks, he might say dog. Now, would we expect the toddler to read the word dog? No. Again, phonological awareness is all about hearing and manipulating those sounds. Let me show you what children can do when they are phonologically aware. So when children are phonologically aware, they can discriminate in environmental sounds from words like a barking dog from the word dog, for example. They can begin to break sentences into words and build sentences with words. I like cake, right? They can also identify words that rhyme and identify syllables in words, like we can clap out our syllables. They are able to recognize alliteration, so those words that have the same kind of beginning sound. They can even break or segment words into parts and blend them back together. Now, finally, they can identify the smallest sound or phonemes in a word, right? We call this phonemic awareness. So what exactly is phonemic awareness? Now, phonemic awareness is the most advanced phonological skill, so it falls under that big umbrella. It is the ability to hear and manipulate individual sounds in spoken words. Now, in the English language, we have 24 letters, right? 26 letters, sorry, 26 letters. And I missed 2 letters there. And there are 42 phonemes, right? So like phonological awareness, phonemic awareness is about hearing and manipulating sounds. So it's really done orally. Phonemic awareness is incredibly important when it comes to phonics, which is when we begin to associate letters with phonemes, right? Those letter symbols with phonemes. Now, with phonemic awareness, children can hear the smallest sound, like in the word cat, we can hear 3 phonemes, k, a, t. When children are phonemically aware, okay, when they're phonemically aware, they can repeat and begin to isolate those beginning sounds. The beginning sound is the easiest for children to hear. Like in the video, Tatum could hear and repeat the k sound in coconut. Now, after children are able to isolate the beginning sound in words, we move to the ending sound and then the medial sound, which can be harder for children. So that middle sound can be really hard. Eventually, children can isolate the ending sound, as in cat, that ending sound of cat. And eventually, they will be able to isolate the short A sound in the word cat. Now, with systematic and explicit instruction, children will be able to segment phonemes with a word and then blend them back together, okay? So children can also add phonemes. They can substitute or even delete phonemes within the word. So for example, right, they can add k to the word at, which will give them cat. They can substitute the sound b for k to make the word bat. And then they can delete the b from bat to get at. So again, that's all adding, substituting, and deleting phonemes. Now, Tracy, now that I've shared the difference between phonological awareness and phonemic awareness, again, remembering that phonemic awareness falls under that umbrella of phonological awareness, how can we apply this in our practice?
Well, great questions, Gerald. Just like when you teach letters, you want to teach phonemic awareness systematically and explicitly. So modeling is the key. For example, if you're working on the hard C sound, like in coconut, children should hear you and they should watch your mouth as you move and say k, k, coconut. Ask the children to imitate you. Cheryl did a beautiful job of this in her video with Tatum. Use real objects and ask children if they have the same beginning sound. If they do, have them hold up their thumb if their sounds match. During your circle or story time is a great time to build phonemic awareness. We recommended that you build phonemic awareness skills by reading the same book multiple times. The first time you read the book, read it all the way through, showing the pictures without stopping. On the second read, ask students to stand or to hold up their thumb when they hear the target sound of the sound that you're focusing on. In this case, the target sound is k. So have them hold up their thumb or stand up every time they hear k. You can also build alphabet knowledge here too by having children point to the letter C in the book. When we read books, we also build another critical literacy skill, concepts about print. To learn to read, children must learn how books work and that books have a spine, a front, a back, title, author, top, bottom. This is an example of one of our brand new A to Z for Matt Man and Bee books called Cora and the Coconut. You saw Cheryl reading it to her nephew Tatum. And in honor of the 100th Hi Mama episode, Learning Without Tears is giving away our A to Z for Matt Man and Me reader set, along with a free registration for our Building Early Literacy Skills from A to Z workshop. Children begin by distinguishing print from pictures, recognizing the parts of a book, following words from left to right, and even beginning to recognize some print, especially in their names. It's also important that children learn how reading works. They must understand that we read English left to right, top to bottom, and then we return sweep. They must learn the letters that, learn that letters make words and that words are separated by spaces to make sentences, and that sentences begin with a capital letter and end with punctuation. Even more importantly, children must understand that print carries meaning. Children can learn that print and pictures have meaning, but print or words are read. Concepts of print also applies to signs in the community and classrooms. Cheryl referred to this a little bit earlier. Children learn very early on that the red octagonal sign with the word stop is a stop sign to let us know to stop, right? Children may learn to recognize their name or their friend's name as they see them on cubbies or around the classroom, or other words around their environment. To involve families, we recommend that families label things around the house too. Now, Cheryl will tell us another way to reinforce concepts about print is to engage in shared reading.
Yeah, shared reading, Tracy, is when a teacher models how print works by showing them that words flow, again, as you mentioned, from left to right, top to bottom, and then sweep down. Teachers model their thinking process as they read too. For example, if children are working on a target letter, the teacher may stop and think out loud so that children can hear. The teacher might model when they get to the word cat, for example, they might say, it starts with a C. And I know that C makes the k sound. That really does show, again, show children what your brain is doing when you're reading. There's so many benefits of shared reading. Children get to see and hear their teacher modeling good reading behaviors. They also have concepts of print reinforced. Students of all levels in English proficiency benefit from modeling. We can help teach comprehension strategies as well. Be sure to check out the attendance chat for a link to a recent blog that has some great tips for reading aloud to children, and it was written by a literacy expert and author, Laura Robb. Now let's take a look at some shared reading prompts to help reinforce how print works, as well as how to reinforce those alphabet knowledge skills. Now, simple questions like, where would I start? Or where do I go next? What do I do at the end of this line? Support students in understanding how print works. You can also use prompts to help students visually discriminate and identify target letters and their sounds. You can even reinforce word skills and numeracy skills at the same time by counting, for example, the number of words on a page or letters in a word. Shared reading can be used to reinforce comprehension skills as well as social emotional skills. So in every one of our A to Z for Matt, Man, and Me stories that someone's going to win at this 100th episode, we reinforce a social emotional skill every single time. For example, in the story, Cora and the Coconut, Cora is persistent in trying to get a coconut. Cora wants something, but it is really hard. So as you read the story, you can ask how Cora shows that she won't give up. You can even ask them to be metacognitive and ask them, how would you feel if you kept trying and you got what you wanted? Now, as you engage in shared reading with your students, we do have a few tips. We encourage you to read the book, as Tracy mentioned, more than one time, right? When you read it the first time, read it without pointing to any words and make sure students can see the book as you read. On the second read, point to the words as you read, like I did with my nephew Tatum. Now, on the third day, ask children to participate by pointing to words. And on maybe day 4, consider focusing on a particular letter or a target letter sound. When it comes to pointing during shared reading, there definitely is also a strategy. Children are paying very, very close attention to you as you read. So you want to be very precise and deliberate when you're reading. Place a finger under each word and be sure not to cover the words. And you want to place a finger at the beginning of a sound, not in the middle of the word. And you want to run your finger under the word while you say it. Remember to pause slightly between words and don't go too fast. Shared reading is not the only skill to model for students. Shared writing, or we could call it interactive writing as well, is important too. When children see their own thoughts, ideas, and feelings come alive in print, it is incredibly powerful. Now, there are so many benefits of shared writing. First, it makes it impossible for all students to see words. You know, it's really, really amazing for children to see their words become print. Now, English language learners can practice oral storytelling without added stress of writing in a newer language. So imagine someone who's learning the English language tell their story and let their teacher put it in writing. How amazing. Now, the expert writer, who is the teacher, gets to model conventional spelling, correct punctuation, and how to incorporate new vocabulary. But also remember, they're also forming those letters, so they're also really reinforcing those things as well. Students get to take what they observed or shared in shared writing and practice it if they're independently writing themselves. That's, of course, for those students who might be ready to do so. Now, shared writing also builds community. There was a class that used to write a silly story every week, and they would add a sentence per day, and everyone would contribute. They watched their words become print and hear their complete story read at the end of the week, and it was a really crazy story oftentimes. Now, here are some tips to have an excellent shared reading experience. Guide students while brainstorming ideas to select a topic, for example. Now, if you adopt the silly story idea, great, but why not include whatever you're learning about? So for example, if you're learning about reptiles, suggest writing about an alligator. And maybe to add a social emotional element, maybe the alligator and his friend have trouble sharing. Be sure to ask probing questions to encourage all students to collaborate. Also, sound out words slowly and deliberately and pay close attention to target words or letters. Now, you want to use this time to ask students for suggestions on what letter sound starts a word or what letter may come next when you're spelling a word, and have children come up and circle target words and letters. Now, we've covered a lot today. We've shared 5 strategies that you can use to build alphabet knowledge, and we have provided engaging ways to teach letters and sounds, concepts about print, phonological awareness, shared reading, and shared writing. Tracy, how did we actually do with those learning outcomes for today?
Well, we shared ways to use music and movement and hands-on resources that you can integrate into your current practices at school or at home to reinforce letter learning. We shared ways to support students to understand the big picture, to help them crack that code of the alphabetic principle and to understand how books and print work. We also shared tips that you can leverage when engaging in shared reading and shared writing with students. And we provided differentiation strategies to support the needs of diverse learners, like using their whole bodies to build or form letters. And that brings us to the end of today's presentation. We hope that you have learned some great ways from us and from your colleagues in the chat that will empower you with your emergent readers and early literacy skills need to develop lifelong readers. But that's not all. Throughout today's webinar, we've sprinkled in bits and pieces of our newest early learning program, A to Z for Matt, Man, and Me. And now we're excited to give you a front row seat to a sneak preview of this exciting program. Let's take a look.
Teach children the alphabet and so much more with A to Z for Matt, Man, and Me. Each letter and sound of the alphabet is introduced through memorable adventures and vibrant hand-drawn illustrations. Children build early literacy and social emotional skills, meet memorable characters, and witness life through diverse cultures. With a flexible format, digital components, activity books, and robust teacher and student support, it's simple to teach and brings alphabet learning to life for pre-K through first grade students. A to Z for Matt, Man, and Me coming this fall.
I hope that got you a little bit excited as we are about A to Z for Matt Man and me. And again, one lucky attendee or from today's webinar will receive a set of these readers and get to participate in our wonderfully engaging workshop, Building Early Literacy Skills from A to Z workshop. So we'd like to thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm going to turn it back over to our host, Maddie.
Thank you so much, Tracy and Cheryl. That was fabulous. I am just going to go ahead and quickly share my screen again, but I really, really hope that you can see the chat happening right now. There are so many amazing comments coming through. Like, I really hope you're taking a look. I know we've said this a million times that this is our 100th webinar, and out of those 100 webinars, I saw some comments that this is some of our community's favorite webinar they've been to. So thank you so much. That was so fabulous. So many great ideas. The energy was amazing. That was just fabulous. Now, we do have a couple questions I want to get to before we run out of time. But as always, we do want to go ahead and quickly launch our questions of the day to the audience. So everyone on here, we are curious, how do you currently track the development of phonological awareness, so learning letters and letter sounds in your classroom or in your center? Is this something that maybe you don't currently track? Do you use pen and paper to track this documentation, maybe an online document, or do you use a childcare management app such as Hi Mama? And the last question there, if you are interested in learning more about how Hi Mama can help you track the development of letters and letter sounds and phonological awareness in your classroom, Morgan will post a link in the chat and we'd be happy to show you around. In Hi Mama, we have every state and province's early learning framework built in automatically for you. So if you did notice an observation of a child, you could snap a quick picture, automatically attach the literacy development that is happening and send it off to the family. So we'd love to show you around how you can do that and how that can support you at your center. Just let us know in the polls here. Okay, now Tracy and Cheryl, I hope you've had a minute to catch your breaths and sharing so much knowledge with us today. Take a sip of water. We are going to dive into a quick Q&A. We probably have time for 1 or 2 questions. Okay, now one question that came in that I'm super interested about myself is in this world of masks that we are living in. Some centers, I feel like this is a common one. Some centers still have mask mandates. I know some have been able to be lifted, but for in classrooms where it is still all the educators are in masks, kind of 2 points to this question. One, do you think masks have limited the development of learning letters and letter sounds at all? And any tips for overcoming the literacy development while educators are wearing a mask?
Thank you so much for that question. It's one that we do get often. And this pandemic has certainly disrupted a lot of things. and teaching letter sounds is certainly one of them. In order for children to really understand how to make sounds and even how to read books, what are they watching? They're watching our mouths, and when we have them covered, it really does make a mystery for them. So here's some. So to answer your first question, yes, it has impacted it. But there are ways to get around it, because one of the things that we have found is that we're going to be resilient regardless. If, to keep our children safe, we know we've had to wear these masks, but we can also begin to teach them how to get around that. And here's what we can do. Number one, there are lots of resources, and actually we are developing a video soon where you can actually see articulation. So there are articulation videos, so you can actually see the mouth. That you can send this to parents. There's some that are out there right now that exist that we have not created, but you can see how the mouth is formed. So for example, a lot of little children have trouble with the L sound, right? So a lot of children say wook, and we can even see that if they say wook, we can see that they're puckering their lips, right? As opposed to look, right? So we want them to see that. So one, being able to show them videos that say the sound. But also there are lots of articulation kind of static pictures to show what the face should look like or the mouth should look like when forming those sounds. So even the teacher, if you don't like what's online, even a teacher can actually use their phone, their device to record themselves and send it home. And parents can do the same. That's a great way for you to find out, well, maybe why they might be having trouble with that sound. So leverage your technology for sure.
And of course, a lot of people in the chat are that are allowed to wear clear masks. Obviously, that was a plus as well. If you're allowed to do that, that's really helpful.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I would add too that when you're talking about the letter sound, be sure not to extend that sound. It's not ba,
right?
Right. Try not to add that extension to the end of a consonant sound. So when you're articulating that or you're showing it with your mouth, like Cheryl said, the not la.
And use, one of the other things, Maddie, that I would mention is you want to use, sometimes letters give you a little bit of a clue. So like the beginning sound, when we say the letter name B, it actually says the sound of the letter, right? So B, B. And letters like S, for example, when you say the letter name S, it has the letter sound at the end of it. So you want to use some of those kind of strategies also to help with sound.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking for educators of our youngest humans that are on here, so infant educators, do you have any tips for those working with infants and anything they can pay attention to or anything they should be doing in the classroom to set the foundation for learning letters and letter sounds later on?
Yes, I know, Tracy. I was going to give that one to you. Yes.
I am also a former preschool director, Maddie. We didn't mention that at the beginning, but read, sing, 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 sing. You cannot do enough of that. But reading to children, singing to children, music, movement, all of those. Do I think that we need to be pointing to the letters when we're singing the alphabet song? No, we don't need to be doing that with 1-year-olds. But, I mentioned earlier that my granddaughter was singing the ABC song when she was 18 months old. That's because they were singing it constantly in their classroom. And I would tell you that while it wasn't related to her alphabet knowledge, it was related to her language development. So I absolutely encourage you to read and sing. It's the answer to everything.
Yes. And also really do build that environment so that it is literacy rich. Like, again, putting the alphabet on the walls, like those kinds of things matter too. And then making sure that you're connecting with home. So they're doing that at home as well. There's nothing like, certainly, when any child comes to my home, and I haven't had a little kid in my home in many, many years, but if I have a little one that comes, you're going to see that they're going to be able to go to my refrigerator, and I have a little alphabet game right there on my refrigerator. You want to have those things that they can touch and feel as well.
Absolutely. Tracy and Cheryl, thank you so much. We are almost at time, so that is the 2 questions that we will be able to get to today. But for everyone on here, if we did not get to your question, in the show notes email, we will be sharing resources for how you can learn more about learning with tiers and get in contact with them. So if you do have further questions, keep an eye out for that email that will have all of those resources available to you in there. Otherwise, Cheryl, Tracy, thank you so much for being here with us today. It was absolutely phenomenal. We are so grateful you took the time out of your day to be here with us on our 100th webinar. Thank you very much.
It was our pleasure.
Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations on your 100th and to many, many more.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care.
And everyone, before we wrap up, as a reminder, for our 100th episode today, we do have some super excited prizes and giveaways. So again, keep your eyes out for that show notes email. We will be announcing the winner of a $100 gift card for a classroom library refresh, as well as the individual reader set and registration to Learning Without Tears next workshop. Super exciting. Keep an eye out for the show notes email and your certificate again early next week. Do not worry if you don't see it today or even tomorrow. It will be in your inbox by early next week. And again, if you are our super lucky winners, we will be contacting you directly as well. So you don't have to worry about that. And what's next? So next week, our webinar, same time, same place, Thursday, March 31st, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be talking about how to transition your center to digital communication. I am so excited about this webinar. We are having a discussion with 2 directors who have gone through transitioning their center from pen and paper documentation to digital documentation. If that is something you're thinking about doing at your center, but maybe you have some nerves about making this transition, you have some staff nervous about making this transition, I will be sitting down with Amanda and Dory. I'm so excited to chat with them. They are going to be answering all your questions that you have about how they successfully went through this transition. Super exciting. Morgan will post a link in the chat. You can register now to secure your spot. Otherwise, thank you again to all of you for being here with us and for helping us achieve this super exciting milestone of our 100th webinar. We're so grateful for our webinar community. Otherwise, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I hope to see you next week. Take care, everybody.